Well, hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are on episode 6 of Cherry Magic, which means we will be halfway through the season after this episode. That's wild. And I've been gone for a week. You wouldn't know that because last week episode 5 was playing. But I was gone for a week after recording episode 5 on vacation. So I'm back now. My throat is a little scratchy because, you know, if you travel by plane, you get like the little plane crud. I've had some sinus infection from last night. And so I've got tea this morning. It's not bad, but I really don't want my throat to go out because it's been doing that a lot this spring. So I've got some hot tea here that's hopefully going to help me from doing that. But yeah, we're on episode 6. And when we last left off, Kurasawa finally got the courage to confess to Adachi, and Adachi is having this dilemma because he just doesn't know if the other girl, the secretary, is in love with him, and what is he supposed to do about that? Does he love Kurasawa, or was he just wanting affection? So we're only at the halfway point. So I fully expect angst before we get into anything regarding Adachi coming true with his feelings and coming to terms with them. So we're gonna have to see on that. But anyway, I do want to talk about a couple comments before we dive in. Episode 5, I realized that we had the struggle between desire and reason with Kurasawa, but we also had that with Adachi. His struggle between, is this desire? Do I just desire Kurasawa, or do I actually desire him? Or, you know, I feel like Adachi is now, his desire and reason is, do I actually love Kurasawa, or is it just me wanting affection? So I thought that was good to bring up. Shadow Gingered Apple for episode 3 says, Kurasawa's backstory on how he fell in love with Adachi is one of my favorite scenes in the series. It does a great job, in my opinion, on how it feels to have a queer awakening in your later years. The surprise and feeling a certain way after just going along with social norms before that point. Yeah, and I feel like that is the struggle that Adachi has right now, because I went back and rewatched episode 4 before episode 5, and in that one, Adachi is like heart eyes for Kurasawa. And up until the secretary says that he thinks she has a crush on him, he's still hard eyes for Kurasawa. So I feel like Adachi thinks he has to go along with certain societal norms because he doesn't think that it's actually his affection towards Kurasawa. But I just don't want Kurasawa's heart broken. I don't want him to like say the wrong thing and break his heart. I hope that doesn't happen. H Banana 7 says, I think the girl saying that Adachi was too much means too much responsibility. She doesn't want to be his first and potentially teach him the ways. That's like college students not getting the job because they don't have experience. That makes a lot more sense. Them and Anime Annie had talked about that, and I was like, oh, okay. That makes much more sense, that she didn't want the responsibility of being his first experience, which Anime Annie points out for episode 4 that there's a nice mirror there, that you have the female coworker and then Kurasawa. She was a crush for Adachi, but not someone he could have a relationship with because she saw being Adachi's first as being too much. Meanwhile, Kurasawa only considers such a thing a positive and would love to be all of Adachi's first. So I thought that was really cool to see that comparison, because yeah, it touches on the fact that, you know, it, regardless of sexuality or that person, some people just aren't wanting that responsibility and others are like all for it. So what do we do? And then finally, Amelia Jean-Claus says, I love how Tsuge reacts so dramatically every time he hears something sweet. Now, Amelia, you did say the blonde delivery man's name in this comment, and the mods didn't catch it. And I was like, was this a spoiler? Because we don't know his name yet. They said Minato, and I was like, I don't think we were supposed to know that name yet. So hashtag no spoilers, please. But it's too late now. I'd already got the go ahead to read it, and I read it, and I was like, I don't think I was supposed to know his name yet, but it is what it is. Can't go back now. You can tell he's a writer from that alone. And then maybe the lesbians really do gain invincibility, since we haven't seen any of them yet. Well, maybe. I thought the secretary was lesbian because she was having the fantasies about the two of them, but maybe she's just a Fujoshi. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah. But anyway, I'm really excited. I hope you all are as well. But we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right in and see what we get with Cherry Magic episode 6. And we're going to start that sucker here in 3, 2, 1. And I'll see you all on the other side. I tell you all how surprised I am? Oh my God. I was convinced we were going to have a whole thing. I was convinced we were going to have an entire bullshit run around where Adachi was going to try to see if he liked the secretary and all of this. And then the show was just like, you know what? No, that's dumb. I talked last episode about the characters from Liquor and Cigarettes. And the main character, Fee, kind of has the same revelation that Adachi does, where he's just like, well, wait a minute. I like that Adachi realized he's like, someone is right in front of me saying that they like me. Why would I turn that away on the off chance? I like that Adachi decides to reward Kurasawa for having the courage to say that he likes him, whereas he's just kind of guessing and wondering if Fujisaki likes him, which she doesn't. So it's like he would have taken a gamble and lost if he had reached out to her, versus here's Kurasawa who's come right out and said he likes him. And he's like, yeah, I kind of do like him too. Like, I like that it all just happened at once, and Adachi was like, oh shit, I do like him. And it wasn't like cheesy and drawn out. It was just like, no, let's just do the damn thing. You saved me, show. Episodes of bullshit plot to just get to where we needed to go. And now is the tricky part. You've admitted that you like him. Now we gotta navigate all that, which makes sense with us being halfway through the series of, okay, how are we gonna navigate this and navigate it at work on top of it? And because we've established this episode that there are some possible hurdles with all that. And we've had Tsuge and Minato kind of advance their relationship. I like the fact we have Tsuge and Minato kind of happening around the same time. It makes me feel like if there's stuff that we're kind of stalled with Kurasawa and Adachi, we can go back to Tsuge and Minato and do that. So I do want to point out real quick, twittering... birds never fly, stay gold. So I've said recently that I'm gonna get, it's Seizaru, is it? There's another BL series called Twittering Birds Never Fly, and there's 2 animated features with that. They're both great. The manga's amazing, but the one, Don't Stay Gold, is like a side story. But Kage and Kuga. So Kage and Kuga, they both remind me of Tsuge and Minato. The character Kuga reminds me of Minato, and Kage especially reminds me of Tsuge. So if you've watched that series, or if you really like the subplot with Tsuge and Minato, I would highly recommend Don't Stay Gold. The OVA is quite good. It's quite good. But anyway, so we finally get the flashback where Adachi's like, okay, what do I do now? We have the OP and all of that starting out the episode. And I like that. I think it's genius. And of course, such the romance trope, that after this confession, we have Kurasawa going on a business trip with Asahina, who also works in the company, giving our boy Adachi all the time he needs to sort out his feelings, which I really like that. I think that was smart on Kurosawa's part, because he probably knew he was about to go on a trip, and he's like, I'm just going to confess, and then this trip will put some distance between us, so that Adachi can gather his thoughts and figure out what his answer is, you know. I think that was a really smart decision that happened to work out really, really well. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad Adachi came to realize his feelings about Kurasawa. So Fujisaki was a big part of this episode, and she gets help from Adachi to like get her things done on time so that everything can be in order. And so I really like this. So of course, Fujisaki all but says, you know, are you into Kurasawa? Like she's needling her way through that conversation like a masterclass Nancy Drew detective. And Adachi is just like whoosh, over his head. But yeah, she's like, you know, he's coming back on his work trip and everything. So one thing I really like is that Adachi, he talks about how cute she is. And she seems earnest, and she seems like a studious girl. My favorite is that she has the over the top of her like working effectively by making people do what you want collection of questions. Like over the top of that is like a love manga, which is hilarious that she's reading smut on the job. Reading Smut on the job. I was like, girl, I don't know if I could bring in. Have I maybe read fan fiction on my phone once at work during a really long, tedious meeting that had no relation to me? Maybe. But would I be bold enough to bring a manga to work? Absolutely not. There's no way I could pull it off. But I love that Fujisaki is a really good person, and she's super kind. But you can tell from Adachi's interactions with her that he's not, like, attracted to her. He just thinks she's a nice, good person that is caring, which she is. And he asks if she really has feelings for him. He's like, this is my first time experiencing anything like this in 30 years. So then he has the fantasy of, he's like, I could lose my virginity and this weird magic power if I start dating her. Now, I don't think Adachi's really thought this through. Because I'm like, you could lose your virginity with Kurasawa. Have you considered that? I don't think you have. Which I think is going to come up in Kurasawa's thoughts, that Adachi's going to be like, oh shit, I don't think he's thought about that. I was like, I don't think you've thought about this. So I'm very curious to see where that's going to go. Because I'm like, oh, you could lose your virginity to Kurasawa just as much as you could Fujisaki. Very much so. But yeah, the two of them together, it's super cute. I do like that he's the one that brings up losing the magic power. He's the one that brings it up that it's a possibility. But then he says this couldn't happen with Kurasawa. He says he's bigger than me and obnoxiously handsome. I'm like, I don't think the fact that he's bigger than you has anything to do with you not being able to lose your powers. If you're worried about that, Kurasawa seems to me like the type that would be whatever you want him to be. As long as you love him, he can go both ways. He can be versatile in all sorts of situations. So, Adachi, if you don't feel comfortable on one end of the giving-receiving aisle, I'm pretty sure that Kurasawa will go both ways for you. I'm sure he will not care. But then he talks about he's bigger than me and obnoxiously handsome. Like, okay, his thoughts are annoying when we touch. And he's secretly a perv too. Well, he does want to do things with you, but I'm like, the thing that's so funny about this is that Adachi thinks that Fujisaki is this innocent, sweet little lamb. She's the one that has the darkest, most like sexy, sinister thoughts of what those two are gonna do, like that would put Kurasawa to shame. But he thinks she's the innocent one. I'm like, yeah. It's always the quiet ones. The quiet ones are always the innocent ones, seemingly. But then they're not at all. And then he's like, oh, and also he's a man. I'm like, now when he says that dating him would probably be a pain, there is one thing about that yes, based on how society is in this show and in Japan at the time of it being recorded, yeah, there are going to be some people who judge them hardcore. There are going to be some people who out them and ostracize them. It would be easier and the more normal way for Adachi to try to make it work with Fujisaki, but we all know that's not going to happen. It would be a pain because not only are you both in a same-sex relationship, but you're also office mates, which makes it even more complicated, right? So we'll see about that, though. Meanwhile, Kurasawa's coming back, and he's like, I didn't think I'd ever be able to confess to him. I liked getting Kurasawa's perspective because we, as the audience, had wondered if he had noticed Adachi kind of like hesitating with Fujisaki, and Kurasawa has known the whole time. He's like, he likes clean-cut, kind girls, which are not what Kurasawa is. He wouldn't appreciate a coworker declaring love for him out of the blue. He's like, all I wanted was just to stay by his side, but he's like, he's become more aware of me now, and I've gotten greedy. Now, the question is, has Kurasawa been able to read his mind? That's still on the backward burner because he's noted that Adachi has become more aware of his presence. So, does that mean that he knows that Adachi's been reading his mind? Or is that just him thinking because he's been around me more often, he's probably caught on that I'm acting nicer to him than I do anybody else? So then he decides that he's gotten greedy. He wanted to spend more time with him. And he's like, I've never thought this way of someone before. But because I watched for him, I could tell that he probably would fall in love with Fujisaki. So clearly Kurosawa is like, I'm going to confess to him and let it be and be like, he's probably going to be with Fujisaki, but I'm going to confess and that'll be that. And he thought he'd be able to get over it after that moment, but instead it just made him. What got me was when he says, I thought about confessing my feelings so I could get over him, but what I thought was he was going to say that I ended up falling more in love with him after I confessed, but instead what he said was I caused trouble for him. Like, Kurasawa wasn't thinking of himself in that moment. He was thinking of Adachi. And I was like, that's so sweet. That's so adorable. Like, good for him. So yeah. Meanwhile, Asina's like, you okay, bro? I love when he was like, yeah. Back in the office. That was so funny. Just his voice actor. What a weird thing to say. But yeah, so meanwhile, Adachi's thinking that he feels bad for Kurasawa. He's like, should I apologize and have things go back to the way they were before? And that's when he thinks back and he's like, oh, the way things were before, no. He's like, if I tell him how I feel, and I like that the show didn't do it in a super schmaltzy, overdrawn way. They just basically were saying, no, if I tell him that I apologize and I can't accept his feelings, everything we've been doing is not going to be a thing anymore. We're not going to go out and have fun and eat because he's going to expect me to go ask Fujisaki or someone else out. He's like, we're not going to hang out. He's not going to do all these things. And he's like, here's someone right in front of me. And I love Adachi's like lip going like, where he's like, someone right in front of me has confessed and said, you know, if it were me, I would love you. And he's like, do I really let that go? I thought that when Fujisaki was like, hey, Adachi, thank you so much, and he cut her off, I thought he was going to ask her if she liked him to confirm it. I thought he was going to ask her if she liked him just to get all of this settled, and she was going to reveal that she doesn't, and I thought that that was going to be a thing, but no! He doesn't even entertain the possibility of being with her. He immediately goes to find him. And he's like, I can't go back to things the way they were before Kurasawa. And I'm like, oh my God. And that's when he confesses. He's a man and he's sometimes kind of scary. And it would be easier if we remained coworkers. No one's been able to touch Kurasawa's heart before. And when he grabs the jacket there, he's like, he said he would treasure all of me. And now I want to treasure him too. And that's when he says he loves him. Okay. Now, he was talking about treasuring him as he grabbed his jacket, so did Kurasawa get that, or was he like, what? But yeah, he finally confesses right back, which I was not expecting at all. And I love that Kurasawa hugs him, because Adachi, you know, it took a lot of courage for Adachi to confess to him in public. So a kiss or something like, no, sir, we're not ready for that at all. Instead, it's just like him being in that space with him. His wordless emotions pouring into my mind. Like, yeah, he just is 100% just in love in this moment. There are no need for words. That might be the thumbnail, the sparkly hug. That might be the thumbnail. Yep. He's like, his heart is beating so fast. I love it. It sounds ridiculous to say 30 years of virginity can make you a wizard. This felt like roll credits moment in this exact second, where he's like, but perhaps I became a wizard in order to touch Kurasawa's heart. Shut up, show. Shut up. Roll credits. We're only halfway through the season. How is this manga ongoing or has it stopped? Is it ongoing? Okay. So the manga is still ongoing. It has 15 volumes. What? How does this have 15 volumes? Oh my God. Okay. You're going to make me read this manga after this, aren't you? Oh, okay. But yeah. So we're halfway through the episode. Of course, then we've got to cover the fact that Adachi, you know, the woman's like, oh my. And it's not just the fact that they're a same-sex couple hugging out in the middle of public that makes people kind of turn their heads, which it does to an extent. I realize that. But it's also the fact that they are being very romantic out in public, and most people in Japan are like, oh, get a room. You know, most people are wanting that to be a private matter. So I loved the reason conversation where Kurasawa was like, I don't want to let him go. And the reason part of him, which the fact that Adachi can hear the reason and desire parts is hilarious. The fact that he can hear both versions, he's like, we might be embarrassing Adachi. We should let him go. And then the instinct side of him, the desire side of him is like, that doesn't matter. He sounded like Suabe whenever he was doing the instinct desire part. He's like, well, that might be good for us. But, you know, I love, he's like, I was with Asahina-san on a business trip, and if he sees us, and Adachi's like, wait, what? He's like, could you bear to let go of Adachi's warmth, his scent, his physical body? And then the reason part of Kurasawa is like, oh my God, you're right. And I love that. And Adachi's like, try harder, reason Kurasawa. That was so funny. I loved that. But luckily, we were able to separate they were able to separate right at the right moment. And don't mind us. Which in the end, Kurasawa wanted that to happen, so that's good. So yeah. Well, now Kurasawa is just like sunshine and daisies, being like, thanks for compiling the data. Thanks for doing this. Good job. And Adachi's like, I'm gonna die. I love Fujisaki is just like, she's figured out something's gone on. She's super excited about it. Adachi still thinks that she likes him. I really wanted her to clear that up for him, but I feel like it's going to happen later on, maybe, that he's going to find out that she has been shipping them this entire time. He feels guilty about this, but I'm like, dude, she doesn't love you. And I'm hoping that she helps alleviate his guilt in the episodes to come. Meanwhile, I love that she's like, her Fujoshi keen instincts kick in, and she's like, I'm celebrating with red rice. I was like, girl after my own heart. Get it, Fujisaki. So then we have Rokaku, who I wondered if Rokaku thought that Kurasawa liked him or thought like the opposite of Kurasawa being jealous of him. But instead, he thinks that Adachi and Kurasawa are just trying to help him along the way. And I'm like, my dude. Rokaku is he's gonna be the death of us all, right? Oh my God. I also loved every time they had Kurasawa showing up to interrupt him. They were like, Rokaku. He's such a mess. He's like, I'm so glad I got a job at this company. Meanwhile, Adachi's like, nobody's noticed we're together, have they? Not yet. Meanwhile, was it Nietzsche or Shakespeare who said, love makes fools of us all? Let's find out, shall we? I thought it was Shakespeare. It is, in fact, Shakespeare from Midsummer Night's Dream and Twelfth Night. Yeah, I was like, I know that's Shakespeare. But yeah, I like that Nietzsche was an option. He's like, the new series was interesting. So has your taste in heroines changed, though? So Adachi's asking him if his taste in heroines has changed. He's like, you used to be into, like, mysterious girls, which kind of seems like Adachi a little bit. But now you're into reformed delinquent tsundere. I honestly, Tsuge reminds me a lot of Kage from Twittering Birds, like to an absurd degree. And he's like, well, surely I've not fallen in love with Minato. I mean, I have ordered a lot of packages. It felt very Scott Pilgrim, and I feel like a different person when someone else comes. Is this love? And he's like, surely not. It's like, no, it's love. He's a man, a delinquent. I don't even know his name. I just love that Minato is such a tsundere. He is such a stereotypical tsundere where he's like, no, what? He's such a cat. It's hilarious. And for Tsuge to look at like how-to romances as he's like bashing his head against the bookshelf, that part was great. I loved that. He's like, I only know he's a delivery man who likes cats. But then he runs into him. I love, and of course, it's Minato that gets Tsuge's attention, which is important to know. I love how awkward Tsuge is. Tsuge's like, hey. It's like, he's so awkward and blushy, and Minato's just like, okay. It's hilarious when his affection by smartly suggesting a social activity. He's so awkward. He's like, oh yeah, you've got something on your shirt. And he's like, ah! And then, of course, Minato's like, I'm thirsty, it's hot. And he's like, do you want to get some tea? He's like, no. I love that Adachi. The funny part is Adachi uses powers to hear what Kurasawa is saying to him, but then he doesn't want to act on it at all, despite the fact that Kurasawa is 100% down. And it's the polar opposite with Tsuge. Tsuge is using his powers to try and get Minato to notice him. And I was like, what? No. God, it's funny. It's really, really funny. He's like, are you here to do some shopping? And he's like, yes, I'm getting ballroom dancing shoes. I like Minato feels like instantly defensive of the dancing that he does, which he's like, no, I'm a backup dancer and all that, which that's really cool. I like the fact that he like is following his dreams and Tsuge is too. But when they both sit there like awkwardly, like just facing away from each other, and then when he's like, I'm trying to go pro, he looks like such a little kid, which Tsuge treats him like he's younger, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's in his 20s. My former college club members have all found jobs, but I keep doing the dancing, but I don't think I can keep doing it forever. And I love that Tsuge gets in his face and he's like, but, you know, I wanted to become an author, but instead of getting a job, I, you know, fooled my editors. And, you know, don't worry about if you're wasting time or having anxiety about the future. You know, don't doubt your abilities. Just live it up while you can. Don't give up. You wouldn't practice until your shoes were falling apart if you actually wanted to stop. I love that. He has some really good moments of being a writer in this. He's like, there's nothing young people hate more. And Tsuge being so worried, being like, oh my God, I lectured him. He probably thinks I'm a boomer. And then the biggest seal of approval from a tsundere is for them to say thank you. And he says thanks with his blushy face. Tsuge, you have successfully needled your way into this tsundere's heart. Mm-hmm. And my name isn't you, it's Minato. Say I had udon. And of course, Tsuge's like, damn it, his name's adorable. I love it. I knew I'd lose my mind when I realized I wanted to buy him all the shoes he wanted. Tsuge is the secret romantic. I love it. I love Tsuge being the secret romantic where Minato is like, the no shits, like, what? Like, just like, absolutely opposite. Love. So now we have Adachi at home, passed out, and he's confessed his feelings, and Kurasawa has called him to ask him about going on a date, and Kurasawa is pleased as punch. Honestly, I know exactly what Adachi is talking about. Whenever you're in face-to-face with someone, it is super nervous and nerve-wracking, but being on the phone with someone and talking to them and just hearing their voice and being these awkward pauses in between what you're saying and trying to figure out what to say next. At least when you're out walking with somebody, you can distract yourself. If you don't know what to say, you're like, look over there, and there's something there. But on the phone, you can't do that. So you have to think of what to say. I think that's why a lot of people don't like talking on the phone, because there is no room for error. You've got to say what you mean or be like, I'll call you back later. So I can understand Adachi's nervousness over the phone with him, especially because, you know, Kurasawa has a great voice. And he's like, let's go somewhere this weekend. I'll choose the place. That is dangerous. Dangerous indeed. I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, Adachi, you better prep yourself, because this could go a lot of different ways now that you know. Now that he knows that you love him, this could be a problem. But yeah. And then he's like, wait, isn't going out together, isn't that a date? And I love that he keeps saying, wait, isn't that a date? And it just like keeps like zooming in. And Kurasawa's like smiling, going, I love Kurasawa doing the kneel, like the yes. I love it. It reminds me of in the opposite way. It reminds me of Love Actually, where one of the characters, he like does that on the sidewalk, only in that scene he's mad at himself. Here, Kurasawa thinks the best thing in the world's happened. He's like, a date with Adachi. I've fantasized about it 1,000 times. He's like, but what do we do now? Oh, and he's like, my love for him keeps growing, but this will be his first date. So he's like, I'm going to make it unforgettable. I'm like, oh, I'm sure it's going to be unforgettable. I just don't know if it's going to be for the ways that you want it to be. Meanwhile, Adachi's like, I don't know what to do on a date. Like, Kurasawa's trying to make it the best day ever. And Adachi's like, I have no clue what to do with my hands. Like, just... what do I wear? And I love he starts spiraling into the galaxy. He's like, I have no idea what I should do to prepare. So I tried looking it up, but it's just normies having fun. Oh, I'm sure y'all are going to have fun. Oh, this episode was amazing. There was so much happening. I can't believe they confessed this early. We're only halfway through this series, which is wild to me. And I'm super excited for what we have coming up. So Anyway, I'm super excited to hear everyone's thoughts down below and what you thought of this episode and the twist of beginning the confession this early. We still don't know if Fujisaki's going to play a role in all this, but I guess we'll find out. So anyway, as long as Kurasawa and Adachi's hearts aren't broken by each other, I'll be okay with that. So in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Cherry Magic.